Good people of the world, good people of the world, good people of the world. Let's talk about one of these presidents today. The second president of the United States of America, none other than John Adams. First, I want to give a shout out. I want to give a shout out to my buddy, my partner in our nonprofit, Jump Forward Incorporated, Mr. George Oliver. Hey, listen, young people, stay out of prison, stay out of jail, stay out of trouble. If you ever been to prison, if you ever been to jail, don't go back. If you never been, please don't go. Okay, let's get right to it. We're going to break down the second president of the United States of America. We're going to try to do it within 7 minutes flat. We're going to give you an understanding of who this guy was, the good, the bad, and the ugly, with Mr. President John Adams. Not to be confused with John Quincy Adams, who was actually his son and was the sixth president. We're talking today about John Adams, the second president of the United States of America. John Adams was the second president of the United States of America. He ran under what was known as the Federalist Party. The Federalist Party, okay? He was born in 1735. He attended Harvard University. He obtained a law degree. At age 24, John Adams started practicing law at age 24. He married his third cousin. Okay? He was described as kind of an arrogant man by his colleagues and stuff, right? John Adams wrote and published articles under a pseudonym. To people who don't know, a pseudonym is a fake name. He did this in order to voice his opinion and things like that against the British, really without the British knowing. Okay? So he published some important articles that engaged some important thought concerning the British policies and things of that nature, and he published them under the pseudonym of Humphrey Plowjobber. All right? He represented the British soldiers who shot and killed 5 civilians during what was known as the Boston Massacre. He felt like these people, regardless of what they did, these soldiers, he felt like they still deserved proper representation. So he represented these soldiers who killed the 5 individuals at the Boston Massacre. He was a leading participant at the First Continental Congress, and this meeting at the Continental Congress, what it was they were trying to figure out how to strategize and to come up with a way to gain their independence. They were trying to strategize against the British before the war actually kicked off. You understand what I'm saying? He was a vocal critic after a while of the British policies, and he was instrumental in the passage of the Declaration of Independence. He was appointed as diplomat to France. This is important right here now. He was appointed as diplomat to France, and he gained French support. He also gained support of the Dutch, and they started to back the colonies. They started to back them. He gained financial backing from them. This right here really helped them to be able to win the Revolutionary War. You understand? America was an upstart nation. They didn't have the money and the weapons and the tools, but they was able to get financial backing and even able to get warships and stuff like that from France. So also he helped to draft the Massachusetts Constitution, right? And the reason why that's important is they felt like he did such a good job on it that they used it as kind of a template to draft the United States Constitution, right? So they used a lot of what he did with the Massachusetts Constitution to draft the United States Constitution. He also did something that was really controversial. He passed what was known as the Sedition Act. The Sedition Act. The Sedition Act was a series of laws that was collectively known as the Alien and Sedition Acts. And what this did was it it gave him free reign to really get rid of foreigners and stop them from voting and stuff like that, man. New immigrants, he made it hard to vote. And so there was some violations in there where really the Sedition Act, it was really in direct violation of the First Amendment. So they ended up later on down the line getting rid of a lot of stuff that came with the Sedition Act. But anyway, he did pass the Sedition Act, which he signed into law 1798. He signed that into law. Adams also recommended George Washington be the commander-in-chief of the colonial army. When they were strategizing and getting ready to go to war against the British, he recommended that George Washington be the commander-in-chief against the colonial army. Against the British army. But that George Washington be the commander-in-chief of the colonial army. Okay? So he had a lot of influence. He played a key role in Massachusetts becoming one of the first states. He played a key role in Massachusetts becoming one of the first states to abolish slavery. Well, why did he do this? Because he didn't like slavery. I take my hat off to my salute, triple salute, John Adams. He didn't like slavery. He wasn't down with slavery. He never owned any slaves. He thought slavery was despicable. He thought it was disgusting. He thought it was outright wrong. Point blank, period. He did not like slavery. John Adams was out of the 5 founding fathers that would ultimately become president. He was the only one who never owned slaves. He was the only one that never owned slaves. Out of the 5 founding fathers who eventually became president, he was the only one that never owned slaves. Salute John Adams. Also, he issued a presidential pardon to some revolutionaries who was trying to overthrow the new government. He issued a presidential pardon to those guys. The leaders of that revolt, they had been sentenced to death by hanging, but John Adams, he stepped in. He gave them a pardon. He gave them a pass, right? What's something else that old John Adams did? He was the first president to move into the White House. The first president to move into the White House. George Washington didn't get to live in the White House because at the time George Washington held the seat of president, the White House was still being built. But part of the way through John Adams' 4-year term, because he only served one term. But part of the way through that term, the White House was finished. It was complete. It was livable. So he moved into the White House, right? So, what do we say about John Adams? John Adams, the good, the bad, and the ugly. What are we going to say about John Adams? Well, we can certainly say the good. He was not a slave owner. Thank you, John Adams. John Adams was not a slave owner. That's the good. Man, I can say that's the great, man. That's great, John Adams. Thank you. He was against slavery. Period. All right? Thank you, John Adams. That's the good. The bad, I gotta say the bad is that he passed this Sedition Act, which was totally unfair to a lot of people, new immigrants and foreigners that was coming into the country. This allowed them to be mistreated. So I gotta say that's the bad. And the ugly, I can't even really say nothing bad, ugly about him, man. You know what I'm saying? Hey, the man didn't own slaves. I can't say nothing ugly about John Adams. So that's the good, the bad, and the ugly about John Adams. The second president of the United States of America. Rev Mio TV. We out, y'all. Have a blessed day. Young people, stay out of trouble. Love you.